Tyler, today we're going to talk more about Franchise Sidekick and the franchise brands that are in our inventory and how we go about that, and something that we talk about very often and are very intentional about. So think about it. If we were a retail store selling vitamins, we are going to be judged on the quality of those vitamins. If we're a restaurant, we're going to be judged on the quality of our food. So our product is franchise opportunities, right? We're judged on the quality of those opportunities. And so when we founded Sidekick, we sat down and we said, what type of inventory are we going to have? We're not the only franchise advisory group in the country. And there's been a kind of an established way to do this before. And oftentimes the other groups will require a franchisor to buy or to pay to get into inventory. What we decided is we wanted to go another route. We didn't want to make them pay. So franchisors don't pay us a dime to get in, but instead we wanted them to qualify. We want to believe in the characteristics of a franchise brand that are then going to make us feel confident that our clients can have success as franchisees. That was super important to us. So in the beginning, with me being in franchise development for over 20 years, we leaned on my relationships. So we went and we knocked on the doors of the very best franchisors that I knew, and that's where we began. But then we had to start thinking, how are we going to expand from there? And you as a marketer, I still remember the conversations we would have around this. You're like, we always have to keep the client in mind, who we're serving and what they need. So that's when we brought on a relationship director, and we said, we want you to go out and pursue the very best franchise brands. But in order for him to know what brands to pursue, he worked with you to say, what do we need? So talk a little bit about how you did that, like who our clients are and how you decided what franchise brands we should pursue.
Yeah, well, it's an art and science, both, right? So I think I view like distribution a little bit. I look at Target, like they know their customer really well, right? They know exactly who walks in that door, where they place things. So I kind of thought about that. Like, we know our customer really well. Let's boil that down and figure out the perfect brands for those customers. So here's some typical customers for us. So we have a guy who owns a lot of franchises or owns a lot of businesses. We call him a portfolio guy, right? So what brands and what things are he gonna like? What does he want? He wants scale. He wants something he can ramp up quickly. He wants something that he can scale up with great systems and processes. He wants something that maybe gives some tax advantages as well. So then we have people who have a W-2. So they've got a W-2, they're doing really well, maybe executive level. And we take a look at them, we're like, well, they want something that they can have really strong systems, they can plug somebody into. Once again, taxes are going to be advantageous as well. So those two kind of have some alignment there, but there's other qualities we look for as well. And then we have people who maybe just want to leave their 9 to 5. And we look at them and say, they gotta break even quickly. They gotta cash flow quickly. They're gonna run this thing themselves. So maybe their marketing and customer acquisition doesn't have to be as good as like some of these other brands, but we look at those and we define them through a couple other things too. We take a lot of information from our clients, so we get to look at some of the other stuff that they want as well. But yeah, you got to define those really well, and going out and finding those brands, it can be hard, right? And so our people have done a great job with that. And I think we're on the right track for sure.
Yeah. And then the thing I love about it is you give direction, or you give you point our relationship people in the right direction, and you say, go pursue franchisors. But then they have to apply. It's not that we just knock on their door and they're in. We got to kind of go in, dig around a little bit, and understand what's going on inside of that franchise brand. So we look at things like, what's the investment versus the return? What is leadership like? Have they had any legal issues in the past? How many total locations? Are they growing? What does their FDD look like? Do we believe it's fair to clients? Validation from franchisees? I mean, we've got a laundry list of things that they have to go through. And then, like you said, we decide, is this something that we consider to be like an accelerated brand who might be more emerging, less history behind it, not 10, 20 years of history that you can rely on, but instead some unique characteristic of the brand that we believe is going to allow it to grow? Or do we put it in the category of certified? And those are the brands that have been around for a very long time, have many, many franchisees that can validate, have a tremendous blueprint. And then we communicate that to our clients. Are you more the type that wants an early opportunity where you're going to have to figure it out a little bit more on your own? Or are you the type that wants more of the blueprint, where there may not be as much territory to buy or as much flexibility in the business, but you've got a step-by-step blueprint to follow?
And they may not know, honestly. Like, this is a game of you don't know what you don't know. And I think that that's why you have to have really good people to help you. And so, for instance, a lot of people think of franchising, they think of like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Chick-fil-A, or they think of these big brands, and you look at the numbers and look at the investment, and it's unbelievable. Like, you're investing in a Dunkin', $1.5 million a year. You're maybe making a couple $100,000 in the bottom line. It's a big investment, but great systems. They've got it figured out, and maybe the perfect opportunity for some people. But then we've got businesses like a line striping business, right? $200,000 investment. They've got franchisees doing $2 million in sales, taking $700,000 to the bottom line. Nobody thought about line striping as a viable option, right? But you don't know what you don't know. Men's Health franchise right now, that's killing it, right? Doing like 1.2 a year. You're taking 600 to the bottom line. That's another example when people would not have realized those things exist without a good franchise advisor.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, the client has to go through a process with us to identify who are they and what type of business do they want. There is nothing wrong with buying a McDonald's, a Dunkin' Donuts, and a Burger King if you can get one.
Right.
I mean, we won't even get into how difficult it is to get into some of those. But if you can get one, you know you're going to have a brand where people are going to open the door without you doing a heck of a lot of work. It is more about operating the business, the infrastructure of the business to give a great client experience or customer experience. On some of the others that you named, because they're earlier stage, it's not going to be you turn on the lights and people just walk in the door. You're going to have to go out and earn the business from people to pull them in. But what those franchisors have identified is a unique market position and possibly a niche service or product that then pulls people in, and the profit margins are really strong.
You wouldn't believe how many people reach out and say, hey, like, I want to buy a franchise, and they want a fitness concept or they want a food concept or whatever, because a lot of people think franchising, fitness and food, right? And we start talking to them and start talking about, have you thought about gutters? Have you thought about roofing? And they're like, absolutely not. And they see the numbers, then they see the systems, and they see the scale, and they see the acquisition targets and things like that. And it really makes them perk up and realize, I didn't know these things existed. I had no idea. I had no idea that 1 out of every 10 businesses in America are franchise, and that there are opportunities like this out there right now.
Oh, I just had this conversation yesterday. A friend of mine, now a client, she was considering a franchise, and she was considering a smoothie franchise. The things that she said to me, she's like, I'm concerned about a high lease. And then she told me where her lease was going to be. It was very expensive. I'm concerned about having a lot of employees, and I don't want my schedule to be tied to the business. And she goes, and I don't want to do all that just to make $100,000 a year. And I said, you're looking at the wrong business.
Exactly. Yep.
You know, that's exactly what that is. It's a lot of employees with turnover. It's high rents and liability, and you're going to be tied. Your schedule is going to be tied to that every day. And then I just gave a couple of examples that said, here's things that you can do work from home that are going to really give you more flexibility. You hire a couple people to go out into the marketplace with much better returns.
Yeah.
And her eyes were open. It's just that people don't recognize there's so many franchise opportunities, but you've got to be in it every day to identify the characteristics of which ones are going to get you what you need versus which ones aren't.
Yeah. You don't know, right? You Google hottest franchise concepts of 2024 and boom, you got a bunch of paid ads, right? Like you got to sift through them. You got to have an expert, somebody in your Survivor Alliance to help you do that.